If there's one place I've looked forward to every year, the Canadian National Exhibition is the first place that comes to mind. I've been going since I was 6 years old, and since then, it's become a family tradition to go once every year. Seeing the vast concrete landscape of Exhibition Place transform into a massive amusement for 3 weeks out of the year made everything inside worthwhile. Even the events and spaces around the CNE became the center of attention, with bands, daredevils, and indoor exhibits, sports games, and live performances catching the eyes of every passerby. From the moment you walked past the Queen's Gate, you are welcomed with a roar of sounds coming from every direction. Rides, people, and speakers echoing from almost every booth, awaiting for your presence to try your luck. As a child, I found myself bolting from one ride to the next, looking for a new thrill that I hadn't seen from the years prior. I'd hear the motors humming, the cars clacking, and arms rotating. In the center of the action, it was loud to say the least, and I loved every moment of it. Aside from the rides, my family and I would walk around the attractions in the adult area. I wasn't going to be a kid forever. I wanted to see what else the CNE had to offer. The rides were larger, and though I was afraid of the screeching and screaming at impeccable heights, I took a spin on the wilder rides. The clicking of the wheels against the tracks, the bangs and clangs of the roller coaster cart against every tight turn made the experience all the more exciting. But while I was in the heart of all the action and pumped with adrenaline, I remained unaware of the more subtle sounds of the environment. The graceful bursts of water from the Princess Margaret Fountain became a commonplace for family photos and cooling off the late summer heat, and Centennial Park nearby providing me with a sanctuary of shade and space to breathe without bodies pressed against me in lines full of indistinct chatter. I'd find my usual spot for lunch inside the CNE food building, full of sounds and smells, dishing and dashing off the walls of a building packed with families and young couples looking for an empty seat at a picnic table that wasn't covered in a sticky substance. Lunch proceeded into a search for reasonably priced games and a good chance of winning prizes. Strolling through the hordes of people, overhearing the blaring voices and carnies advertising their games and prizes through a megaphone at their booth to hopefully swindle a couple into spending a few bucks. One ride I'd go on every year was the Sky Rail, a ride that's become my favorite. Seeing the park from up above at day and night, listening to the music in the distance with the wind blowing through my hair, and jolting my head down to figure what cracking and popping noises arise from the games below me. I tilt my head to catch a glimpse inside the BMO field to watch a soccer football game, and keep my ears open for a guitar riff or booming drums from a familiar band playing at the bandshell park. If I was lucky, there'd be a limited event to take a gander at, such as the grinding of a hook against a giant rail directly above me. Watching my dad zip line above me was probably not on my bucket list for things to see at the CNE, but it happened. As I got older, the rides took a toll on me, and I came to enjoy the simpler rides such as the Euro slide. The sound of an oversized hacky sack bumping up and down with every bump and hump, and the joyous laughs of other children that went along to it. As day faded to night, I'd adhere to my family tradition and find my way to a Tiny Tom's food truck to buy some donuts for all of us, and tune into a crowd singing along to a classic song by a memorable band from my parents' youth. The flurry of instruments beamed across the CNE so that I could always hear it like an audible beacon, even if I wasn't in close vicinity of the music. After many visits to the Canadian National Exhibition throughout my childhood and teenage life, I realized it's more than just an attraction that I paid a visit to each year. It's a place I identify with. It feels like part of being Canadian, a part of home. Throughout my childhood, I wanted to go so I could play games and win prizes. I wanted to go on rides and overcome my fears. I wanted to try the wackiest food abominations I could find, just because I knew I wouldn't be able to find them anywhere else at no other time of the year. I used to dread walking through the exhibition place and Coca-Cola Coliseum so my parents could do some indoor shopping, and the Better Living Center in Queen Elizabeth building where my family would admire the countless exhibits of farm animals, which were a source of boredom for my impatient mind. As I grew older, however, the little inconveniences of my thrill-seeking childhood became the wondrous joys of my teenage and adult self that I look back at fondly. I learned to appreciate the small things in the CNE, and that I didn't have to go on every ride and play every game and win every prize to have a good time. My experiences were encased simply in just being present and witnessing the sights and sounds around me. That's what made it, and still makes it, memorable today. This discovery led me to realize that the CNE itself is a community formed around so many different subcultures. People go every year for different reasons. Not every visitor just goes for rides, games, and food. Some go for music and live entertainment. Some go for the cultural exhibits. Some go for animals and displays. Some just go to walk around and see whatever there is to discover. That's what I tried to do for the first time this year, to try and discover something new and not limit myself to the same things I always do every year. I realized that many people are in the same boat as me, trying to find something to identify with and become a part of. And at the CNE, actions as simple as watching, listening, and being present and discovering new things are ways I can become a part of a community. I'd always wondered what made the CNE a community based around one place, and now I know why. It's because even though we don't all speak the same language, have the same interests, and initiate in the same activities, we can still be together as a number of subcultures bounded together by place to unite us as one. This whole idea made me reflect on what it's like to be Canadian. How we're a country formed by so many different cultures and so many different people who, despite being very different, all identify with one place. And even though this is just one fair in one city, it still reflects a much larger ideology. Community is not always based on where you came from and what you used to do and where you were born, but rather who you are in the present and how you identify with yourself.